Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Press Play Lifestyle Inspired podcast, where we do interviews with interesting and inspiring individuals like our new friend William to help all of you find the resources, tools, and support that you need to be your best inspired selves. How are you doing today, William?
I'm doing great, Jackie, and thank you for having me on your show. This is a wonderful opportunity to connect to you and to your audience as well. Thank you.
You're welcome, and it's so nice to meet you as well. I was looking, so I always stalk my audience or on my guests, and then I always think maybe I shouldn't use that word because it scares people nowadays. But I researched a bit, and I really enjoyed your website. I feel like it's a very it's very energetic. It's a very energetic place to be, even as like a landing place to get to you. So I was wondering if you could just take a moment to just kind of introduce yourself to our audience and just tell them a little bit about you and what you do.
Sure, I'd be happy to do that. My name is William Michael Forbes. I'm a spiritual medium, a channel, and an intuitive life coach. And for me, I'm at a place in my life where I talk to guides and angels and divine beings and non-multidimensional beings. It's been a whole new world for me these last 2 years. But it was a long haul for me. I had a very difficult childhood, went through, addiction and alcoholism and a lot of problems along the way. But they gave me an opportunity to suddenly run into the contrast that there's a whole other side to our lives besides pain and suffering, and that we are actually able to change that. And when I began to realize that we could change how I could change how I feel, I wanted to share that with everybody, that you don't have to be suffering and pain and sadness and guilt and shame. It's not who you are. And that was a big wake-up call for me, and that moved me into what I called conventional coaching, where I always seemed to know the right thing to say and always seemed to know the right thing to do. And I thought I was really smart and intelligent until a couple of years ago when my partner's mother, who had passed away 7 days before, suddenly started speaking to me. And the first time I actually heard consciously someone who had left the body talking directly to me. And that all of a sudden opened up to all these other beings. Like I've had Jesus and Buddha come to me, all these beings, my guardian angel, John. It's just been amazing, showing me and teaching me and guiding me to share their messages of love and freedom and inspiration and creativity to people so that we can be liberated from our past and live the divine presence of who we are now. And that's what I do now. I channel divine messages to people and for them from their guides and angels, and we help them to get connected to them because they're with us all the time. You're
Yeah,
never
that's
alone.
beautiful.
You're never alone. We're never alone. That's a big thing for me. But yeah, that's pretty much a short version of it.
That was a very short version of it. I did. Two questions came up for me, and I wasn't really sure which one to jump on first. But maybe the first one is, that sounds so scary. Like, to kind of be a very conventional person, we all, like, if we're in coaching, we understand like different levels of things, but to all of a sudden maybe hearing a disembodied voice, how does one know that that's what's happening, or not like think maybe they've gone over the deep end?
Well, I knew because we were actually driving through the mountains in Grossmore National Park in Newfoundland, and I literally smelled this smell of perfume. And I'm smelling
Wow.
this smell of perfume. I said, I'm smelling this smell of perfume. And then I heard a voice say, I am the mother. And then I started feeling this shaking energy in my body. And I said, there's somebody here saying they're the mother. And now they're telling me I have to pull over, that I can't drive and listen. So we pulled over, and my wife was smart enough to pull out her phone, and she recorded this conversation of her mother coming through and explaining her a series of events that had been embroiled in their family system for 4 years and why it happened. And what was really funny is during that process, her mother had said through me that there would be two events in the next 24 hours that would allow her to know that it was her mother. And it was really fascinating because about 8 hours later, it's getting to dusk, and we're driving along, and all of a sudden, all these frogs literally start jumping out on the road in front of us. And I slow down because I don't want to hurt the frogs.
Yeah.
And she goes, "Oh my God, my mother, when we would go to our farm, the frogs would jump on the road, and she would stop the car and get out, and we'd remove the frogs off the road before she'd drive." And
Oh.
she was in tears because now she realized that the very first verification had come. And we drove for about another half hour after we got past the frogs, and we pulled up to this place to tent for the night. And out of nowhere comes this big orange marmalade cat. And it walks up to Norma, totally ignores me, jumps up on her and starts rubbing itself again. And Norma goes, "Oh my God, this looks like my mother's cat." And I forget the name she said, but this is my mother's cat, Ralph or something. And it's exactly the same cat we had. And it rubbed against her. And as she acknowledged that, the cat suddenly jumped down and ran, was gone. And that opened it up. And we were both stunned and amazed. I mean, we were talking about it for days, and nothing happened until we got back to Toronto. And from then, all of a sudden, I had Master Jesus come to me saying, "You're going to be teaching the people." And then I had my guardian angel around, and I had these Buddha coming to me, and all these beings coming. "We are here to help you. You are here to remind everybody that we are here with everyone. No one is alone. It is time to raise the light and restore the godship to all." And I didn't know the meaning of those words, but I begin to understand them as everybody starts to tap into it. You get guidance that's available. So it's been a mind-blowing tour. So we ended up being guided to create courses and classes where people learn how to actually connect to the guides and angels, even past loved ones that are with us all the time. And that's been really exciting for us to literally watch people opening up to their guides and angels. We're not alone, ever.
Yeah, I think that's beautiful. I had this really wonderful, unexpected interview. I have a lot of those with a very young man that was a medium, and he said, "You have an angel that just sits up behind you, Jackie." And I was like, "I have a what?" Like that was like that first like intro of someone kind of telling me. He's like, "You're doing the right thing. I don't know what you're doing, but you're doing the right thing." And I thought, oh, but he was a very, very young man, like 23, maybe 24.
Wow.
And he said, "Do you feel the awakening?" And I was like, these are words that I don't use. I use bit and byte and technology. And he's like, many of us are feeling it. He's like, hopefully there's more awakening coming where we'll be more connected to, the earth, to what is, to, divinity. And he's like, "It'll be good." I was like, "Okay, I believe you." But it was just this really interesting sort of, there's like this new energy, I think, maybe in the last, for me, it's been the last 4 or 5 years, I've seen more people kind of being able to openly talk about it. Like, I think before now, people were careful. I have a question for you. This is a friend of ours used to own a company. He was a Puerto Rican gentleman who was very strongly based Catholic. And he asked this question. He said, "Was Jesus a homeless man?" What do you think the answer is? I'll tell you my
the immediate answer I get, life, my immediate answer that comes from Master Jesus is, "Life is my home."
So my 10-year-old son, I asked him, he's smarter than me, obviously. And he said, "Well, maybe the way we see being homeless in that he didn't own a house." He's like, "But he was always home." And I was like, oh my God, I started to cry. I was like, that is just so profound. But he's like, "You're home if you believe, or if you feel love, or you are love, you're always home." Yeah. And that dwelling doesn't matter. And I was like, holy crud, that 10-year-old is something special, right?
Wow.
Fine,
what a blessing.
I kind of like him.
So blessed to have that type of awareness in the children today. And they are, the Master Jesus and Buddha, they all say the same thing. We are in this process of what they call ascension, which is an upliftment of human collective unconsciousness from being just these bodies and minds and confined to these bodies and minds as a separate self, to this awareness that we all divinely interconnected, that we affect and interact with everything at all times. And that this time the knowledge and the wisdom and the information is available to everyone to liberate themselves from their past, right?
Yeah. So in the current times, I hate that we say it that way. So right now we're living in the middle of quarantine, as there is a virus that's out there that many of us, I think we all know of. And so a lot of what I'm hearing is people sort of quoting like the Maslow's hierarchy of needs that says, in the beginning, we're all worried about safety, security, left brain, right? Not dying. And you sort of ascend. And the top level of that is the self-actualization or recognition of the consciousness or the of all. But that due to the virus, people have regressed back to a very safety place. Um, what are your thoughts on that? Like with those two competing theories right now, where there was this big awakening that was sort of shaking up things, and now we have sort of this leveling that's like, wait a minute, right now we have to worry about eating. Do you have
This is
any thoughts on it?
Yeah, this is a great question. And
Thank
the
you.
information that I was given by my guardian angel John is that this whole isolation, this whole COVID-19 thing is not as bad as what people have been led to think it is. It's actually a great opportunity for humanity as a whole to go disconnect from the external distractions, to reconnect to our internal knowing, our internal connection with the life force that we are here to individually express from within, to break those ties so that we're liberated from the world, and then we can bring to the world what each of us has naturally to offer it as our creative expression. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. So, I mean, if I were to make, I don't have the same kind of religious background as you do, but I was equating it sort of to like the 40 days that Jesus was in the desert, where he was sort of forced into this isolation, and in it allowed a different awakening, would be what I took from that, like the way that I could understand it. Is it kind of that thought?
That's a great correlation, because people have the opportunity now to learn to meditate, to quiet their minds, to eat better food, to not be socially distracted, to be be the resurrection of the self, the divine resurrection of who you really are. So yeah, that's a really great analogy. The 40 days and 40 nights is kind of like that, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like it's surprising. And I know a lot of people are very like they're struggling with the kind of being home. I'm really not. I'm like my kids are here, and and like it's different having to homeschool 4 kiddos. We have a special kiddo, so she's got a little bit more support she needs. But like my best friend, my husband, my best friend is with me. My children are with me. My
Wow.
pets are with me. I'm like, I don't want anyone to be ill, right? That part I don't like, but
Right.
like given no choice but to enjoy the what I have, it's
Yes.
kind of nice. Like
Yeah.
it's simpler. It's simpler at
Yeah.
least.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, it's about so many people. I mean, you look at the medical system, how it's stressed, the mental health system is horribly, it's
Mm,
because we're so disconnected from self. They tell me all the time, people need to come back within to learn to master the house. And
yeah.
Jesus says to me that this is the divine temple of the living God. And that as you come to the place where you begin to assert mastery over it, make it your servant, not your master, you come to being that which you are. And it's a real important theme from my perspective personally, that I just sit in love all the time now. I just sit in love as much as I can. I go down the street, when I go out the ground, I send out love, because it's a vibration that we can generate, just as fear is a vibration we can create. And yeah, what greater opportunity for all of us than to have the opportunity to be with our minds, be with our emotions, and to learn to rework them so they work for us instead of against us.
Have you ever heard of Ho'oponopono?
Yes, I have.
So it's just
Yeah. What was that phrase? There's a phrase from that
it's I love you, I'm sorry,
please
please
forgive
forgive
me.
me,
Yeah.
thank you, and
Yeah.
then I forgive myself is the fifth, which you only find out if you go into like the fifth level of Ho'oponopono practitioner training. And I recently fell on that series of trainings, which again wouldn't seem like something that I'd fall into, but the Master Lin, who's now retired, he he lives in love, and he's a Hawaiian man, and so he that was what he literally almost the exact words you said. His he hears other entities, right? And so he said he was able to actually cure a whole, not cure, he wouldn't say it that way, I don't have a better word,
Transform the energy.
of a whole bunch of mental health people in a mental health facility. And he said literally they just no one had loved them so long. Like even in that ward, the plants wouldn't grow. It was just it was full of earthbound spirits, people stuck,
Yeah.
all of these people that were alive but unloved and just wandering because they had people had stopped listening to them. And he's
It's,
like, he just walked the halls saying, "I love you," and
yeah.
and
Yeah.
then they were like, "Oh, you hear me?" And he was like,
Mm.
"Yeah, I guess I do." It's very
You know,
interesting.
it's funny that he was able to get into that state of being and be able to communicate that deliberately, because life is what we're being. To be able to walk along the streets or communicate to your neighbor, even if you're not physically present with them, I love you, even if I don't understand you. To deliberately and intentionally communicate that vibration to anyone, anywhere, is transformative, because you're asserting a frequency of vibration. Just like we're using sound waves to communicate, we're imparting an energy, even if it's just a non-visual energy called emotion. I love you is a powerful, powerful energy. I can understand how that would impact people around him like that.
Yeah, I saw this recently. Now everybody's putting memes out, and there's lots of data right now flying everywhere. But it was the heat signature of a body based on emotional states. And it struck me
Yeah,
that the two most resonating or read was love and happiness. But happiness was actually bigger. And I thought, huh, that's interesting.
mm-hmm.
Both were crazy, complete, right? Almost the whole body was activated. Love did not have activated on feet, so maybe the feet fetish people, or that's a problem. But the joy was the entire body. But if you looked and knew nothing about energies, knew nothing about any of that, and you looked at all the like anger, like it was a black figure, like there's nothing coming out. It's all like inward hate. Like
Yeah.
you have nothing going outward except for meanness. And it was interesting to me to just sort of like, I don't know it, I don't get it, but to see that gentleman, Dr. Lin, and his theory of energy and life and love,
Mm.
and then these memes coming up, and there's like a lot of things connecting right now that are just like, be okay in isolation and
Yeah.
love.
Yeah.
But it's not just love out though, it's love in.
Yes, yes, so important. It's interesting. In our course, we had a woman who had been in chronic pain for the better part of 20 years.
Mm.
And one of the things that we were taught is that emotion gets stored in our body, whether it's fear or anger, guilt or shame. Our body remembers and holds that energy. And the minute you begin to alter or change it, so in this case of this woman, we taught her how to begin to love her pain, to extend love to her suffering.
Yeah.
And as she did this over the course of a 3-week period, all her chronic pain went away, because she was now no longer feeding it with her pain. So
Yeah.
we understand that emotion is a vibration that each of us can choose to create. I can choose to focus on joy. I can choose to focus on a feeling of anger or suffering.
Mm.
Whatever I focus on creates and organizes my body. It
Yeah.
organizes my world. And for this woman, when she said that I have not been pain free like this, my husband is just in bliss. It's amazing. That type of stuff can happen for anybody when you understand
Yeah.
what you were talking about.
There was two. There's one woman I interviewed at the very beginning of my podcast series. Her name was Janet Mojave Banks, and she wrote a book called Happiness, and she's from the UK, and she was literally bedridden. Like not, she had her husband had left her, she had cancer, and her children were being forced to help her, young children, and she said, no, i'm I don't know what I'm going to do, but I know I don't want to feel this way anymore. And obviously it's a book length book, right? But she's healed herself, and now she teaches people how to be happy. And then Hal Elrod, which is a doctor, he does the Morning Miracle series. I did
Mhm.
not interview him, he's way too famous, but he basically broke his back, I believe, bad car accident.
Are you
And
referring to? Oh,
well,
yeah.
Brandon Broussard is also another one who's gone through some healing, but Hal Elrod, there is it, yeah, that's his name, right? The two of them both have gone through some healing.
Yeah, him and Joe Dispenza, Dr. Joe Dispenza is another one as well, who broke his
Yeah,
back.
I didn't know he broke his back, but and I have read some of his books, but I didn't know his backstory. So what's interesting is some of those people are coming from a very Western medicine
Yeah, isn't that fascinating?
right? Where they're like, wow, I broke my back. They're telling me I'm never going to move again. And it was the Hal Elrod story where he said literally because he was a physician, he visualized every day, like everything reconnecting every day. And he's like, and you still have to do the work. He's like, I still had a lot of physical therapy. I was in the pool every day, all these things. He's like, but now he's writing books about it. He's in the best shape of his life. And so people may want to reject that teaching, but it's coming from Eastern, Western,
Yes.
everywhere, that emotions, they're kind of like
Yeah.
stuck. You get them unstuck.
I'm reminded of an Australian man who had been in a wheelchair for 25 years from a
Oh,
spinal injury, got hit by an 8-ton truck, and he was an upcoming rugby player. And over the course of a year, he worked with a doctor who used the process of mind over matter. And literally, the guy's now walking down the beach with his wife unaided.
oh,
Um, and
beautiful.
again, this was a medical doctor interacting with this medical patient, and they created this completely different, it's totally turned the medical model upside down, and same as what you're describing. It's completely transforming our medical system, and we're in for some really awesome times.
I think that when we stop saying things like Eastern medicine and Western medicine and like Buddha or Jesus or um, you know, believer or non-believer, and we just begin to like action. I think we got to get over the independence movement a little. Like I know, like I want to be unique, I want to be independent.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean I'm a person, but maybe it's the collective that we've lost track of. Seth Godin is a very well-known marketer, and yesterday his newsletter he put out, and he said it was the me and now versus us and them, or us and together, or us and future.
yeah,
And the point of it was like, you know, the way to get people right now to participate is by saying they'll lose something personally if they don't.
right.
But it used to be that people just did things for the collective because that's how you sustained.
Yeah,
But we have such abundance that we don't have a dependency on a greater collective. And because we don't need the collective, we begin to disconnect so much
yeah.
as if we need nothing. And it's that disconnection, right? That's causing um, some of the bad stuff to happen. So
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And now we're swinging the other way. We're realizing the collective actually has a greater influence on our individual expression than we're consciously aware of.
yeah,
And it becomes very important then to understand, well, what is my non-separated relationship with everyone, and what do I want it to be? What do I need it to be? What do they need? Because we really become our brother's keeper fundamentally. If I think love towards you, I'm influencing you. I think anger towards you, I'm going to influence you, and I get to choose which emotion I want to use. And we're watching that collective start to work together. The light worker groups that you're seeing emerging now with the ascension process of putting
yeah,
out more love, more truth, more wisdom, more possibilities.
yeah.
Uh,
I
it's
have
it's
a I have a cousin who is a physician's assistant, right? So she's or nurse practitioner. Apparently, it's very important that I distinct that right. So she's a nurse practitioner, and she's in her, she actually just turned 60, and she actually does sweat lodges in the back of her home and is a Reiki healing master in and she's Lutheran. She's raised Lutheran. And so people are like, how can you like don't you have these competing beliefs? And she's like love isn't a competing belief. It's if you just deal with the feeling part and not with the science part, or trying to prove in or prove out something. It's all about your experiences becoming your beliefs, and knowing that beliefs aren't necessarily facts. They're a strong opinion that you had so much that the subconscious now decided it's a fact. It's very interesting to me that someone so Western medicine has come so far over to say, hey, I'll use whatever it takes to help heal and help people.
Yeah, and that's really what it comes down to. Do what love requires you to do in any moment, right?
Yeah.
We all have to do that. At some point in time, we come to that awareness. I mean, I spent a lot of my life in fear, and coming out of that into this contrast to love, and realizing that this is what drives life to grow and evolve, be more inclusive, to be more expressive, to be more creative. Certainly fear can do that in destructive ways, but love is ultimately the most powerful one.
So, William, what do you do with so you've alluded a few times, just high level, that you guys, you and your partner have done some courses and you've done some work that way. But what services or what work are you doing that people could come to you and say, hey, William, I need this, or I need, how would they work with you, or what do you do with them?
Well, there's a variety of things we have going on right now. One of the first and foremost things is I do private readings for people so they can actually connect to their guides and their angels and actually feel the presence of them and formulate and develop a relationship with them through that reading process. We also have our 9-week course that we offer in 3 different segments where we teach people a step-by-step process for learning to quiet their mind, body, tune into their guides and angels, and develop a very specific scientific methodology for connecting to the awareness of these beings. And thirdly, I run a weekly show on YouTube called Supernatural Saturday. And that can be seen on YouTube at 11:30 to 12:30, 11:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. every Saturday in Eastern Standard Time. But also for the last week and a half now, we've been doing this series. I was guided by my guides to do this, called Shortcuts for the Soul. And it's a little short series at 10 a.m. every morning Eastern Standard Time on my YouTube channel, where basically they're giving us a little thing every day that anybody can apply to begin to reassume authority over their mind, body, and emotions and the conditions in their life. And it's been mind-blowing when you realize that life was not meant to be a big struggle. It's just understanding what it is that you have to work with, that we all possess what we need. So those are the predominant things. And anybody can go to my website, williammichaelforbes.com and peruse and get an overview of everything else that's going on as well. But those are the fundamental things that I invite people to come out to, because it's, again, your guides and your angels are here to lead you to your truth. It's not they're in charge of you. This is a free will zone. They work with you. It's a working with. It's hands working together. It's not I'm in charge. And it's not none of that nonsense. Yeah. They're not like that. None of them ever will be. It's a free will zone.
Yeah, that's
that's it in a nutshell.
That's so much. You seem like very, very busy. Everyone else is sort of bored, and you're like, no, I got stuff to do. Like, let's get done. It's amazing.
It's a blessing, but that we all have that available. That's why we are being in isolation, to reconnect to what you came here to be as a soul. You didn't come into that. Nobody came into a physical body to suffer. I believe everybody came into this physical world to experience the expressions of love and joy. I disagree with the old school, well, you have to suffer pain to grow. That might be true to a small extent, but I believe ultimately we came here to experience and express our highest light. That might require that we experience a little pain to recognize that's not what I want to experience anymore.
Yeah, I think if we recognize the fact that our body is the best alarm system we ever will have, and that pain is really just like the yellow light and then the red light saying, hey, something's off. I can't tell you what, I'm just going to tell you it is. And I think that pain becomes chronic when you ignore yourself for so long, that eventually you stop trusting your body's own signals and it kind of goes into overdrive.
Oh, yeah. A lot of people don't need it. You're right about that. The body is the primary red flag system that says, hey, something needs attention. If you're not eating properly, you're not drinking proper water, you're not exercising your body, there's certain fundamental things that if we're not doing them, the body begins to break down unnaturally. Bodies aren't meant to last forever because we'd be pretty bored in the same body forever. But they are meant to last with certain quality. And again, that's something that people can learn to do. And it doesn't have to be complicated or a regime. It can be really simple steps that anybody can learn to take. And we teach that in our basic program, how to actually get rid of caffeine. It's a fun thing. We love what we do.
Obviously, it sounds like you're into what you're doing, right? You look happy and high energy, which is amazing. So do you have any parting words of wisdom that you'd like to share with whoever might come across this interview?
I personally, I just say, learn to let go of your fear and your anger, your guilt and shame, and live in love. What's coming through to be communicated to everybody is you are not your emotions. You are not your thoughts. You are that divine one that is meant to organize them to be pleasing to you and those around you. Learn to cultivate your awareness as love and not as the conditions you were taught to think you are supposed to be expressing as. Step away from what you've been taught to be and be that which you are.
That's beautiful.
Mm.
Thank you so much, William, for taking the time to meet with me today. I look forward to staying in touch, and we'll make sure that all of your different ways that people connect, your YouTube channel, you have some Facebook groups out there, you have a website out there. We'll be sure to put all that in the show notes. So if someone feels called to see if you can support them, they'll be able to reach you easily.
Well, Jackie, it's been an honor and a privilege, and your energy's just been so soothing and calming and clear. And I really respect and appreciate, and I really appreciate your time today. Thank you so much.
You too. Have a great day. Thanks, William.
I will. You too, hon.